Well, hello everyone. I'm Lisa Murray from Creative Alchemy, and I have with me today the beautiful, amazing, magical Becky Herdt from the USA. Hi, Becky.
Oh, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you to have a bit of a chat today. So, this, in a way, is the Creative Wonders podcast, and it's just a little mini series that every other month or so I just add a new one to it. And today we are really talking about creative nature because we have this thing, it starts with wonder, where I think a lot of people, Becky, don't really consider that they have a partnership with nature. They have a collaboration and a connection with nature. And I know that you do in a multitude of ways, some magical, some, let's just say, wake up callish, like Mr. Bear. And Becky might tell you her bear story in a moment. And yeah, so I thought that we might just have a bit of a conversation about, well, what is possible when we co-create and collaborate with nature? What is possible when we receive from nature? So, Becky, maybe start off with your bear story, because it is a very, I think, insightful way of looking at the connection that we have with nature and what it really, truly desires to give to us.
Right, because I have always appreciated nature. I've always enjoyed time in nature, I've received so much nourishment from that, let's say. And I never looked at it as a co-creation or a partnership or a communion. It was really just this fabulous planet, and I would go out and do things, and I would be aware of those energies. And so the bear story is in the middle of April, driving back to my office late one evening, come around a curve, and I hit a bear. A very big bear. Guesstimates were about 600 pounds. Totaled my Jeep. I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee at the time. Totaled the vehicle and created some not really fun things in my body and my brain, and my ability to kind of. There was just some physical challenges with that, and somewhere along the way, several people that I talked to early on even said, "Wow, a bear," and things like the medicine from a bear is strong, or the message is strong. What do you get from that? And yeah, it's the strength. And there's also a huge part of it that I just kind of knew was about going inside, like where the bear hibernates, and going inside to places perhaps that I hadn't wanted to go before, and just to be with those things. And I tend to, I'm not somebody who hides from change. I kind of run head first into it and plow through it. Sometimes feels a little like force, like if I'm going to do it, let's just get it done and be done with it. And this, the bear energy was not having any part in that. And so I had to, for survival, for my sanity, I had to shift to the place where I was in wonder, where I was asking questions, but not just a list of questions to get information, but really just the wonderment about, wow, that was a pretty amazing creation. And that was a really interesting way for nature to show up, and what's in it for me. What can I receive from it? What contribution can I be? I even actually tapped in to do a healing on the bear, because I didn't stop. It wasn't a good scenario to stop. And I got that the bear was okay. And there was a communion with that particular animal, that particular bear, and some really interesting awarenesses. So all that is just to say is it was kind of coming at me, and I had the gift of not having a lot of analysis capabilities with my brain due to the concussion and that. So it really was the energy of curiosity. I couldn't dissect it. I couldn't make it make sense. I just had to kind of be present with it in a way that was very different than anything I had done before. So that's kind of where the wonderment, like, okay, wow. And it's no small creation to have a 600-pound bear show up in your world. So it just was a totally different way for me to be things, and I talk about it kind of stopped me in my tracks physically. Things that I could do in the physical sense were more limited, and the space that it opened up for me was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Right. So that's where the I tell people my favorite word is right? Because you don't agree with anything, you don't disagree. And oh my gosh, that word has gotten a workout since this bear dance.
Yeah, I like how you call it the bear dance. And, oh, wow. It's so very interesting because, we often see nature as this force to be reckoned with. There's this kind of fight energy that has emerged with nature, and yet what I'm aware of, is that we have just disconnected ourselves so thoroughly from nature that wonderment is not there in the ways that would actually create gifts for us. It actually sort of, somewhere along the line, we lost that bit. And what I see in your bear story, and, because I have many, many different animal stories when I think about it, and nature stories of different connections that I've had. And they've always brought me something unexpected. They've always taken me into the unknown. And at the time, I think it's very easy to see that as, something that's in your way, or something that you didn't plan for, something that you didn't ask for. It's very easy to, complain, let's just call it that, in some way about the situation. And yet what I have always seen in hindsight, and often in the moment as well, like I'm getting better and better at being present with what the gift is in the moment, but is that in restoring that connection, our sense of wonder in its true sense actually begins to return. And what I see is that nature is this magic, like it is true magic. To me, nature is true magic. Like when you look at all of the different things that nature can do and be, there's just this incredible alchemy in it that allows so much more to be possible than what we in our very linear, limited thinking and our busyness actually allow for. And when we create that space, and really what you did was create a space, right? That allowed the nurturing. It was like you've created a space and now you have to nurture because your body's like, help me.
Right? It was yes, it was done in a demand kind of style instead of an invitation. It was like, this is it. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about that, because I did that with burnout, right? Like literally my body was at the state of change this or else, and it was pretty much or else you'll die, because I was incoherent at that point. And I think when we get to these, wake up calls as such, and I want to say here, you don't have to have a wake up call, right? But Becky and I just happen to have had a couple. And I suspect many people listening have also had the odd wake up call. And what I want to say is that in my observation, the wake up call is always an invitation to nurture ourselves in some way, to actually nurture a part of us that hasn't really been seen, or, and I don't know what it was for you, Becky, in particular, but it's one of those really interesting things, I think, is that when you start to look at, well, what is the wake up call asking me to nurture? What is the nurturing that is available here that will actually allow my body to have a greater future? These are the sorts of questions that I ask myself, because whenever there is that kind of wake up call energy, or even just the sort of connection with nature, which puts me into that wonder and curiosity, I'm always like, okay, because our bodies are physical and nature is physical, and they're both energetic as well. But that physical component, it always sort of brings a question to me. So I don't know if you've got something you want to add in there about the nurture side of it and your experiences with that.
Well, it's like anything else, I guess I tend to be a little extreme in things. And so I'm a kind of person who does things like massage and walks around. Like I would do things that I would have said were nurturing. And yet there were some things with physical health and old body injuries, trauma, that kind of stuff, that just somewhere I had decided I just had to put up with those. Like that's just how it was, and that there wasn't another possibility. And so what showed up with this, because I again just kind of tried to push through it, and the body just wasn't having any part in it. It was just like, no. And so I just asked what it required, and I went to went to see someone, and I thought I was going for one thing. I thought I was going for supplements and a quick conversation. And I ended up with an amazing experience with an osteopath who helped me see some things in my body that had been there for years and years and years, right? But the point of that is I was never really, I kind of I bully my body a lot into doing what I want it to do. And yeah, there's this and it's not comfortable
I'm
and kind of
sure
whatever.
you're the only one. I've never done that.
No. The body was kind of like, okay, two can play at that game. And I actually remember, because you said something, I don't remember what it was, but at one point, I literally in my head, because I've been sleeping for several days, I actually heard "get up or die." Right? It was just like it's time, and it just forced me. It invited me to be present with my body and what it required for nurturing. That didn't match what my head thought it should be capable of doing. But what it required for nurturing, whether like healing touch of a particular variety or a change in nutrition, being out in the sunshine more, that felt really good on my achy body. But being willing to receive energy from people, not an exchange. I'm big on exchange. And so you do something for me and I do something for you. It wasn't that. It was really me showing up from a place of vulnerability and receiving the contribution that others were, their energy, and that nurturing touch or contribution from others. And that, let's just say that was an unknown space in my world prior to this event. So it was the physical nurturing and allowing some bodies, people that I knew, people that I didn't know, to contribute to what my body required. And that was its own thing. It didn't have anything to do with what I was doing for them.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. I think for those of us who are doers, who are very good at doing, and which, that was definitely, and it still is me to a degree, but I'm getting a lot better at the receiving side. That thing of actually allowing other people just to contribute to you without you having to do something for them is huge. And, when I look at nurturing, this is the kind of thing I think real nurturing is. It's actually things like that, where you allow a different reality to filter through your world. And for me, it's been very much like that as well, in that the nurturing that I thought, when I first had burnout, I thought that, having a massage and all of those things was going to help. I did all the things people said you should do, and none of it worked. At the end of that time, at the end of a year, I'd spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and yet I hadn't actually learned very much about nurturing. I thought I was, right? Because I was doing what everyone said you should do, but it wasn't what real nurturing is. And it was quite extraordinary for me to actually then move beyond the normal things and go into stuff more like what you said, where it's like all these other energies of nurturing that we're just not used to actually having in our life or receiving, because it hasn't been a part of, the way we've lived our life. And I think this is one of the real beauties of the Creative Wonders retreats that Becky and I are going to co-facilitate one in a couple of weeks. And this is one of the real beauties, is it's nurturing, but not in the normal senses, not in the traditional expected ways. And it really is about how can you allow the unknown to nurture you.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a huge thing. And like you, Lisa, I had done the kind of corporate burnout thing. I do some work around the energies of abuse, right? So it's the traditional, the therapies and the this and the that, and all of them along the way tell you to take care of yourself, to do something kind for yourself. And all I can say is this is a totally different energy than any of those things, allowing yourself to really be nurtured. And I actually just got the hit too. Because part of that is about receiving.
Yeah.
It's not about doing something nice for me, but what if the something nice is about allowing me to receive the gift or the contribution or the nurturing from someone or something else with nothing expected in return, right? I'm guessing that that's a shift in reality for most people I know.
Yeah, I think it is for all of us. And for me, I know it took a lot of presence to actually stop myself automatically going to the giving. It was like
Mhm.
I would want to do something for that person. And in fact, not only going to the giving, but going to the overgiving. And I know I did a Facebook Live about that a few weeks back. I might add the link in here as well, because there's this thing where, yeah, just the straight out receiving. And, like yesterday, because I've been working my ass off the last few weeks, and my body has been feeling it because, of course, you're at the computer, you're sitting there, there's a certain physiology that kind of gets stuck. And what was really interesting is yesterday my body was like, nope, I would like to lie on the earth. And at first I thought, okay, that's cool. I'll take my notebook down and I'll just write a few notes and, it'll all be good. And then when I got down and I was lying on the grass and my body was just like, thank you. And it was so happy. And I noticed it took me a little while to actually move into that receiving space, because initially I was just lying there like, okay, I'm still had my busy mind going. And then the more I connected in with the earth, it was like, oh, actually, I can just be here. And in fact, I can allow the earth to receive all of those energies in my body that aren't working for my body. And I can allow the earth to energize my body. And by the end of that 45 minutes or so, it was just a completely different energy. And I ended up working for quite a long time afterwards, and really easily, because I'd done that one little 45 minutes of just, connecting in with the earth. And I think this is, when we talk about creative nature and creative wonders, this is what's important, is this real presence and this receiving. And what we want to do in this retreat that we're doing is really dive deeper into that, into all the multitude of ways that you can have that really deep receiving and deep nurturing, that maybe it takes a little bit of time. But honestly, what I would say is that 45 minutes was the best 45 minutes I had yesterday, in the sense of, without it, none of the other 10 hours would have worked.
Right.
And
And we receive, so when we're willing to give ourselves the gift of that time, right, and really willing to be present with it, our bodies are so happy.
yeah,
And they show up in a way for all the other creations or all the other things we have to do, right, that it just doesn't happen when we're forcing it. When we allow ourselves to receive that nurture, that nature, it just, yeah, my experience anyway is that it just exponentializes my life.
yeah. Oh, totally it does. And I think this is really at the core. You're giving away all the secrets, but I think this is really at the core of what we're going to do in this retreat, is this thing of allowing your creative energies, because your creative energies are very connected with the earth as well. And so bringing them into your presence, bringing that connection with nature fully into presence, so that everything in your life can be exponentialized. And this is, I think, part of the magic of nature that I really love and adore. And it's something that whenever I get a bit, oh no, I don't want to go for a walk, or I don't want to do my nature thing, I'm like, well, hang on a minute here, because that's actually where the true magic is. And why would I be cutting off that gift just so that I can write another thing, or, whatever it is, the doing. And so we really would love to invite you into this space of receiving and the depth of the nurturing and the wonder that can then connect you with the magic of nature. Because when we have that, so much more is possible that just wasn't possible before that moment.
So much, and so much more than we can define, or for me, even more than I could have imagined. Right. And so
Yeah.
it's really an invitation to, does it sound fun to step into the energy of nurture and nature and creation in a way that you've never been able to tap into before?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's the unknown. I think, we do all the doing, the controlling and the busyness, so that we don't have to step into the unknown. And yet the funny thing is, the unknown will take us exactly where we're asking to go with all the doing and the busy. But we just got to leave off on those reins a little bit, and, let the horse sort of take us for a walk, rather than us telling the horse everywhere it needs to go. And Yeah, my sense is that the more, and for me anyway, what I know over these last few years is the more I've done this, the more has become available. You know, like at the moment, I'm in the midst of creating a trip to Europe, and I'm going to run a series of events for that. And it's so interesting how I've held the reins very loosely with this trip. I've really just allowed it to create itself, and in connection with the land, in connection with nature. And it's been extraordinary how easily it has fallen together. And even though, yes, there's some setting up work to do for it, it hasn't been hard work in the sense of actually allowing all of it to just flow in a really beautiful way. So this is what's available, when we don't force and push and hustle and all those other nasty words that we're so used to doing because that's what we've been taught works. It's this other space of just allowing our creation to come in really nurturing and natural ways.
It's absolutely about allowance, right? Which has never been, I would say, my biggest strength, right? And what could we change if we were really willing to receive and allow that space, that nurturing, that nature, right? I wonder.
Well, I wonder too. And, if you want to explore this a little bit for yourself right now today, just go into nature. Ask where do you need to go? What do you need to be or do? And literally go into nature and ask it to show you its true magic, and just be open to receiving whatever comes. Don't try and control it. Don't try and work it out. And, we're going to have lots of different tools and tips and ideas for how you can do this in very deep and nurturing ways during the retreat. It is online, so you can join us from anywhere in the world on the 19th of August. And of course, there will be the replays available. So if you actually end up watching this video afterwards, you will be able to buy the replay if you so choose. And we'll set it up so that you can have all the magic that we receive during the live event. But of course, we would love to have you on the live event, because when you come on there live, your energy actually contributes to the magic that's available as well. So, yeah.
Just to interject there too, that for the States, it's on the 18th.
So, oh, yes. Good point. Yes.
Saturday night, 5 o'clock, 5 to 10. And part of that, when Lisa and I were playing with timing, we're going to be able to pick up the energies of the sunset in North America and the sunrise that early morning time in Australia. So,
yeah.
Those are two of my favorite times of day. So to get them simultaneously is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited because we have lots of very marvelous, beautiful energies available for you to tap into and explore in new ways in a very safe and nurturing environment. So come play with us. You can find all the information at creativealchemy.com/wonders. And I wonder what it would be like if you just started the process today by just going into nature and asking what gifts it has for you. You might be absolutely surprised and amazed and delighted. So thank you for being with me today, Becky, and having this chat. And we'll chat to you soon, and hopefully we'll see you on the retreat. Okay, bye-bye.